I want to talk about life lessons from the Christmas story. We are moving into that season of the year where we celebrate once again the historical reality of the birth of Jesus Christ. This is a time when, although our society around us is criminalizing Christmas, they still want to have a holiday. And so they just tell you, well, don't say Merry Christmas, that'll offend folk, but let's just say Happy Holidays. And folk want to have a holiday for no reason. We know that this season is about the birth of Jesus Christ. I've said across the years, if you don't want to acknowledge that Jesus, the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, was born in a manger, came into this world by God's divine will, if you don't want to acknowledge that fact, go to work on December 25th. You're not off because of a winter holiday. There is no winter holiday. No more than there's a summer holiday or a spring holiday or an autumn holiday. This is about Christmas. You can't even say the word without acknowledging Christ. And so these are times when we as people of God can and should celebrate Christmas, because we know the real meaning of the season. We know what it is all about. And we need to keep Christ in our Christmas. Make sure in all that you do, you keep Christ at the center of your season. Now, many believers have differing views on, how much we should participate. And there are those that say we shouldn't do anything of the commercial variety. And there are the no trees and no trappings kinds of approaches to Christmas. And I think in the body of Christ, we ought to learn to accept others without passing judgment on disputable matters, according to Romans 14. So if that's your position, God bless you. Hold it with all sincerity. But don't pass judgment on those of us that have trees and candy canes, because we're not denying the Lord who bought us by celebrating in that fashion. And so we can all get along if we will just learn that not everybody sees everything the way you see it. But here's the thing I want to say, especially to parents who are new to faith and often will get questions about things like this. And, some say, well, should I have young children and of course they want to enjoy some of the trappings with regard to Santa Claus. What should I do? Because I don't want to be untrue to God or to Christ. And I've often told them through the years, this is my word of advice, take it or leave it. But I've often said, I see no problem with having that. Again, if it's not against your conscience, having the Santa Claus story and trappings as part of the way you acknowledge the season. But I've always encouraged parents, put Santa Claus in the right category. Put him in there with Little Red Riding Hood. Put him in there with the other fairy tales. Nothing wrong with it. We've all enjoyed fairy tales across the years. And even if you want to go into more detail and talk about St. Nicholas and then talk about the evolution of the idea of Santa Claus from the historical figure St. Nicholas, help yourself. Do whatever you want. But I don't have a problem with Santa Claus as long as you let the children know here is one of the stories that has been told down through the centuries, just like the 3 bears and the 3 pigs and all of them. Throw Santa Claus right on up in there. Because, they can still enjoy it even though it's a story. Children have a marvelous way of getting into it. You remember how I wasn't upset when I found out Little Red Riding Hood wasn't really going through the woods. I just enjoyed the story. She on her way to Grandma's house. The wolf got in there and messed things up, but I wasn't disturbed. And so I encourage parents, do the same thing when it comes to Santa Claus, if you choose to go in that direction. And let the children know, here is one of the stories. And if you want to go to the department store and sit on his lap and tell him what you want, fine. Just understand that when you see the stuff under the tree, at least here was my approach when mine were young. I got it from my daddy. My daddy said, I'm not about to let y'all believe that somebody broke in the house and left this stuff. I worked too hard. I went through too many changes for that to happen. No. When y'all look under that tree, don't say thank you, Santa. Look in my direction. You want to leave little cookies and something? Give them to me. That was his approach, and I just adopted that. My children both enjoyed the trappings and also knew that their parents were responsible for blessing them on Christmas Day. And for us, we just kind of blended it all together. But whatever you do, keep the Christ in your Christmas. And one of the ways you can do that is familiarize yourself with the real story of Christmas. The real story of Christmas is not a story about Santa Claus. The real story of Christmas is about the birth of Jesus.